Today's episode is sponsored by Unplugged Earphones. Unplugged earphones are a high quality for money wireless earphone. Retro and very, very stylish. The sound quality of these is, I have got to say, fantastic. I'm a big headphone man. I always have my earphones or headphones on when I'm going to walk with the dog or if I'm doing a gym session, and these are fantastic. At £27, I just can't fault these at all. They're compatible with iOS and Android. They're wireless and they're smart One Touch technology. Check out the link that will be in the description. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Leave me a wee comment, please like and subscribe, and tell a friend. Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Flip the Mindset podcast. This is episode 6, and I'm joined today by the most handsome guy in Scotland and Love Island star, Wallace Wilson. How you doing, my friend?
Not too bad, mate. Thanks for having me on.
How's things been?
Good, man. Like, I think obviously just a weird time at the moment, innit? But just been working, and I feel like sometimes I don't follow this question up with like a big extravagant lifestyle, but it's pretty normal at the moment, you know.
Just fitness, personal training life, isn't it?
That's legit, mate. Like,
we're both personal trainers, you know. Fitness fanatics, fitness freaks. Well, I'm nursing a bit of a belly now, but too much pies in lockdown and too much gin, I think. So let's talk about lockdown first. How's your lockdown experience been?
Tough. I say tough. Like, it's been different because I live by myself. So, and also as well, obviously, everyone will probably know like the Love Island situation and stuff like that. So going from that, like so much intensity, everyone knows who you are, asking for pictures all the time, social media just like booming, then to just nothing. It's odd, you know. And then obviously everyone still looks at you a certain way and stuff like that because it was still in the limelight, but no one comes up to you and stuff like that. So it's just a weird dynamic. But nah, it's been good. I think it's been good for me to just chill out a little bit and find your feet after something like that because it's such a high, and then just figure out where you're at.
Yeah, it's like going from being in front of millions of people on TV to writing programs.
Exactly, yeah, that's legit. I was doing live workouts in the living room. I was like, what's happened here? But I loved it. But it was like, I went from this to suddenly jumping about in the living room, you know? Yeah.
You describe yourself as confident, funny, energetic, with a lot of men struggling now, especially during lockdown. I want to know, how have you coped with the madness we're in?
I think the biggest thing is like routine. I think like for me, it's just routine and still being sociable to a certain degree. I think like anytime I feel a bit off, it's because I'm not being sociable, not hanging about with the right people. Yeah. And then you have to have time by yourself. Like I always say, like it's not really like if you're missing out, it's if you're finding yourself sometimes. So if you're by yourself, the thoughts that come in, you have to let that happen. But you need to combine that with socializing sometimes as well, because you can get carried away. But I think for me, it's just staying in a routine and just doing what works for me. So building more and more self-awareness. So I think you always work figuring yourself out as well.
Yeah, I think the socializing bit's hard for many people now.
Yeah.
But I don't think people want to go out on a Tuesday night after work in the piss and rain because they can't get in their mate's house for their catch up. So it's a difficult one. It's good. From what I see, and I've been following your stuff and that, you've been very positive.
Yeah.
Very positive, and you look as if you've almost thrived off lockdown.
Yeah, I guess so in a way. I think it just depends on, well, obviously your whole thing is like about flipping the mindset and it's about your perspective on things. Like I think you can view things in different ways. Like I think we all go through phases of our life where we view things in maybe a negative light or a positive light. It just depends. Just depends what kind of person you are. But no, I've been positive, but I think you can not so much sink or swim, but you just have to make the most of it. But also as well, you can't get caught up in if you aren't progressing, doesn't mean you're not doing something right. You know, you're a failure because you can see someone else who's doing better. There's always going to be someone better than you, but as long as you're doing what you can do and trying to be positive. And I think, I don't know, there's a lot to be spoken about in terms of why I am the way I am, but I'm sure we'll kind of get into that. Yeah,
no, I like that there. Like you're saying, people think if they're not progressing, if stuff's not happening. Progression like money, and you can be raising self-awareness, you can be working on, like for me, for instance, my reading wasn't strong. So what I've been doing is I flipped from my audiobooks to reading books.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed that. So I've read a lot more and I feel like I've got a lot smarter from that. And this is just a small, self-progression that you wouldn't
I wouldn't put the value on it before lockdown. Do you know what I mean? But now I feel, I'm reading books pretty fast now. I appreciate that now, and I understand, that without the stuff that goes unnoticed, you don't get that further progression as such. But for me, lockdown's been fantastic, and lockdown's been polarizing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
It's been two things. I didn't work for 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know about you. How long were you off for?
I was still doing stuff online in that, but actually 1-to-1, probably like 6 months or so, 7 months, something like that. Probably similar time frame.
And that was brutal. Because I had the wee man.
Yeah.
Coming through, and he's there, and I'm thinking, oh my god, I need to go and provide. But what if I do go and get a job? What if I go and spoke to the missus? What if I do go and get a job at Asda? Like, what if I catch it and give it to him? He's only 3 months old.
The tough thing about that as well is you probably get this perception that you've taken a step down. You know what I mean? From going to the PT, like it's seen as like a good job in some regards, depending on how you view it. And then go down to Asda, you probably feel like it's a step down as well. And that's so much to it. But that's why some people are sometimes scared to admit when they are struggling or don't want to. And you see people still buy fancy clothes and stuff like that, but they're actually really struggling and they're trying to pay off this debt.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of similar thing. You don't know whether to drop down, but for you, it's just caring for your kids. Like that might have to be an option. Like if it persisted,
Yeah, crazy. I really think that there was a time after the first month of lockdown, I took a mega drop. I mean, I was worried about the future. I was beating myself up because I wasn't out working already. But the missus is like, I've got bad asthma. And we were scared that the Wayne might have it, the Bairn might have it, I think for me, I was starting to feel lesser of a man just because of the pressures of modern society. What it's like. You have to be seen to be going and
alpha and
doing this and all that. Yeah. But I was thinking, God, how am I going to provide for them? What am I going to do? How am I going to work it? So I done online. Like that, and then that started to die a wee bit. Just halfway through, people were like, you know what, we're never getting out of lockdown. Who cares if I'm embracing the bod? Do you know what I mean? And then you've seen it a lot of online PTs just kind of went stagnant.
Yeah, a lot of businesses just died,
and died. And then you're thinking, when the rent break scheme finished, we had like maybe £2,500 coming out every month. All the bills are going again, but I'm earning £80 a week, or whatever it was.
Crazy.
I was panicking, and every month going into debt. That we've just paid it off. A lot of people didn't survive that. We had so many suicides. We had so many. To you, do you think that was a direct result from the pandemic?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Like I think a lot of people figured out maybe what they were lacking in their lives, maybe a little bit, in a way, I guess. And also as well, it's just a tough time. Like, I think anything that you don't know, like for example, if I told you to run right and I didn't tell you where the finish line was, you'd be like, fuck this, like I just can't keep going. And then because like COVID, you don't know when the end date's going to be. So like in your mind, like it's tough because you don't know when things are going to go back to normal and you wonder what normal's going to be. And it's tough because like, even for me, like going from Love Island and everyone knows who you are, and then you're brought back down to life a bit, and actually like socially you're maybe not as invested, because you filter a lot of people out as well because you need to work out who actually cares about you. And because with football, this kind of stuff, I'll always have different social circles, so I never had a proper group. So like you see people doing like these online like quizzes and all that kind of stuff, and you actually realize, oh, maybe my social circle isn't as good as so you figure out things about yourself and you're like, right, okay, I need to try and bring that back. I need to try and bring that back into my life, so you think you figure yourself out a bit more.
No, I like that. Yeah, absolutely. And that's, you do some circle work, I like to call it. Who you're letting in, who you're letting out, change that to energy, what energy you're letting in, what energy is going out. And I think many people have realised over lockdown, people who are in their circle who are there and who's not really there.
Massively.
Let's be honest, huge, and family members who are there and not really there. Do you know what I mean? I think there's been a lot of that, and maybe resulting in a lot of loneliness. A lot of people beating themselves up like I was doing, and sometimes you're fighting yourself, aren't you? And you get into a really bad place, then you're hearing this boy's committed suicide, this man or this woman's committed suicide, and that keeps coming. And then sometimes you can just get into that real negative spree, that negative way of thinking that That is that my only way out? Is that this and that? Is there a way back? Because I'm consumed by darkness. I can't see anything else. I'm in debt again on the 16th of this month. Another £2,000 coming out of my bank.
Yeah.
How am I going to do this? No one's going to help me. He's not going to help me. She's not going to help me. And I've got some people around me.
Yeah.
Some people don't. And that's just heartbreaking to think of. I think there's been a massive damage.
I think like on that conversation as well, before we move on, like I think it goes the other way as well. Like you can see people are all seem like everything's fine and dandy, you know what I mean? And then that makes you think like, oh, I don't feel great about myself. Everyone seems fine. You always think like you're the only person. So I think it's two ends. Like you see that, but then you also see the other end as well. Like people doing really well, and then even me, like obviously you get this opportunity with like Love Island stuff, whatever it might be, or we can relate that back to football. You see someone you used to play football with who now is playing professional, and you think, oh, that could have been me or whatever. And you can't really think like that. There's always going to be that element. It's about what you're doing with yourself. You know, it's quite a tough one. But as I say, it seems like sometimes everyone else is fine, but you actually speak to them and you're like, oh no, you're actually struggling a wee bit.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, okay, well, what I want to do is, in every podcast you hear, let's go back to the start. I'm going to take you back to the beginning. I want to know a bit about the Wallace Wilson.
Yeah.
You know, the Wallace Wilson before Love Island. Where did you grow up? School you went to? What happened at school? You know, how you get into football? Was there any other sports and all that stuff?
Sweet,
right?
Let's do it, man. This is what I really wanted to talk about, because like I'm glad you brought it up, because there's so much more to people than you think. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure we'll chat about identity. Like if you play football, everyone thinks you're a footballer. If you go on reality TV, everyone thinks that's all you are. So yeah, when I grew up, like I was a bit of a wild child. I think like there's so many stories of me being a bit just erratic and just a bit crazy, like we all are. But just think I was just even higher up the spectrum. So yeah, I was pretty mental. Like grew up in England until it's about 7 or 8, something like that. I moved back to Scotland, so that was obviously a bit of a shift, like being in England for a bit and then straight back into Scotland. But that's
whereabouts in England?
It's East Grinstead, so you know where Gatwick Airport is, just round about there. So, but then my dad got a job up in Glasgow, so that's where my mum and dad are from. My dad's from like Whitecrook, my mum's Clydebank, so back in her roots. So, yeah, that was a bit of a change, you know. So for me, just living in Glasgow for a bit, and obviously went to school and everything was going fine. Obviously, just adapting to being in school again. And but then there's something I don't really talk about very much is like when my sister got ill with leukemia. So yeah, I think that kind of changed me a little bit. Like I used to be extremely like just energetic, like constantly like just in trouble all the time. And then obviously my sister got ill, and it was a tough time. You know, like I think kids are so, I don't know, they just don't get it. You know what I mean? Like I never forget when that actually happened to my sister. Was always a bit like bit off. Like she used to be most like unbelievable athletics, like swimming, athletics, everything. She was amazing. That probably a lot better than me. But then she just stopped doing it. Just got tired all the time, and I was like, "What's going on here?" And I never forget it. I was like just kicking about in the garden. I actually had this is part of the story, but like I had my dad's shoes on because I was just like cutting about in the garden, just messing about. And then literally my sister was going to get blood work or something like that because they knew something was up. And literally they were just like, basically she's like in a really, really bad condition here. She needs to go to hospital right now. So literally I got put to my mate's house for like a week, basically, because mum and dad wanted to be there with my sister. And I never forget, like I rocked up to school the next day. Obviously I didn't know what was going on. Like they didn't tell me like what was going on with my sister. Like I didn't know what leukemia was. And I'm rocking up to school with my dad's big size 10 shoes on. And I was just a wee guy, you know what I mean? Everyone's ripping me for it. And in my head, like I'm like, what's going on here? Is my sister gonna die or whatever? So it was tough, you know. And then I think school was quite tough for me after that. I think it was just quite vulnerable and people could sense that. But then I didn't want to bring that up because I didn't want to put any more pressure on my parents that was already there.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So I think for me, as like a wee guy growing up, that kind of changed me a little bit. I became a little bit more introverted.
A bit more lonely?
Yeah. I wouldn't even say lonely, just like felt a bit vulnerable. Like I couldn't open up if like school was a bit struggle or someone was being a bit mean to you, whatever, you know? Yeah,
you didn't want to be that burden at home that you're putting more on your parents. Yeah,
100%. And then I think that's the way I've always been. But then we'll go into it later. But then when I moved like abroad to do football coaching and stuff like that, it totally changed because I found myself a bit more again. I got that security. But I remember things like my mates used to invite me around for like sleepovers and that, and I couldn't do it because like in my head, like last time I went for a sleepover, that was when my sister was in hospital. You know what I mean? That's when I got like, so it was always that little like inset there. But yeah, that's like, there was a tough one. So it was just about trying to figure myself out again and like realize like everything is going to be all right. But then I think for me, that's when football came in because I was like, right, this is my escape.
Yeah.
For me, like this is my time. This is what I want to do. But also, I think there was that sense of like, because my sister was so athletic, so sporty, I was like, well, I kind of want to fill that void, I want to do it for her because she can't do it.
Yeah.
I thought there's no way I can be like not doing something. I need to be trying to push myself because she would have everything to be able to do that. And then I got into football, so started absolutely loving it, but I hated it at first, didn't want anything to do with it. And then discovered, like, I think it was like Mikey Moles or something like that. I seen him score like a hat trick one time.
Michael Moles, what a player.
And then I got into it and I just absolutely loved it, mate. And then obviously just got progressively better and better. But I'm sure we're going to go into the career a little bit. But yeah, that was me as like a kid. So yeah, started off like super energetic. Then obviously that like kind of like trauma, I guess, happened. I didn't realize that at the time. I just felt it was pretty normal. Yeah. And then now it's like, right, okay, all makes sense. But now I feel good to like back on myself and have done for like numerous years. So numerous years.
It's a big weight shift. As I said to you before, it's a big weight shift in the household.
Oh, massively.
And yeah, maybe you went to school, you maybe had a hard day and you've came home and you're screaming out inside to tell your mum and dad, but you don't. And that's what I mean. It can be surely that can be a lonely place. I know you might not want to put that label on it, but surely.
Oh, you're lonely in your mind, yeah.
Yeah, can be a bit lonely and maybe a lot of beating yourself up, maybe. It's weird you said that about you wanted to be sporty in that because your sister wasn't being able to do it anymore.
I think so, yeah.
When my brother died, I started doing hundreds of things that he was doing.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't do it anymore. And I'm putting more emphasis into it.
Yeah.
Weird, I filled that like cavity kind of thing, and it almost gives you a purpose, maybe.
I think so.
That you're
makes you more grateful as well, It's, kind of makes you think like, no, I'm going to enjoy this, you know what I mean? Because some people out there can't do this, so I'm going to just go throw myself.
So at school, what did you want to be?
Don't really know. Like, I didn't really. Honestly, I was just a bit wild in school. Like until obviously all that happened.
You getting into trouble and all that?
Almost outside of school now, just a bit of a whirlwind, Right. Like, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. My dad was a greenkeeper, still is. So I used to always go to work with him. Like, I was always like 100 miles per hour. Like, so I didn't really know. Like, I think it's just the same as everyone. Like, your dad's like the best person in the world when you grow up, like your hero. So you just want to replicate them. And then
I wish I knew that, but no, that's it's my mama.
Yeah. Well, I guess you could be from mum as well.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Just depends on how you're brought up, but whoever's like building you up, I guess, like
course.
teaching you the ways. So yeah, I didn't really know it. And then obviously as soon as I found football, I was like, that's my thing. But I think for me, like, we'll go into it, but just got so anxious for football. So anxious.
Well, and that resonates with me big time, eh?
Honestly, like, you would not believe it. Yeah, so it was football for, like 2 years, because I went from Stirling Albion it was, and then went down to trial at Oxford United, and then went down there. So I was down there for like a year. So
I thought you coached for a bit, no?
I coached after that.
After that,
okay. Yeah. So down at Oxford United for a year, which was good, but I was so young. I was only like 15, so I was young at the time.
How did that come about?
So it's just like with trials and stuff like that. So there are always like different tournaments and stuff like that, and then you just see things pop up. And Oxford wasn't too far away from my uncle and things like that, so it just kind of fitted. Like, I was still in digs and stuff, but that was a big change for me. So from being so like family orientated and always want to be around my family because I always got that kind of attachment in case like, like everything, like obviously with my sister and that, I was always a bit kind of protective. So for me, like going into a host family and that, it's just a big change, being so close. But then I soon adapted. At first, I absolutely hated it. Like 15 years old, like with totally new like family you're living with. They were great. They would look after me, but it made me learn a lot. Like, I grew up so fast because you're playing with like, because it was like the academy there. So what the script was, it was just I was like 15 years old and right, put you in the academy for the first year, and then after that we'll discuss if you want to go on like a full professional contract. Yeah, got round to that at the end of the year, and I'd always struggled with a little bit of injury in my hip and stuff like that. It was all right, and then I remember they did the trials again. They're like, right, you need to go to the trials just because everyone else is there, just to like be ready for like it was like the apprentices almost. Yeah. So apprentices and then into the youth team. So I went to that, and then I remember you got letters through if you basically got into the next phase of the trials, and they just they built me up, like they brought me down there, all this kind of stuff, and then just said to me, oh no, we don't want to take you on like into the apprentices. And I was just like, I've just moved down here like full year of my life, and I was just like, fuck, what do I do now? And it was just like loads of trials and stuff like that, but it's just rejection after rejection.
So it's interesting that with the young Manchester City boy who just took his own life. Did you see that?
Seen that,
rejected from the academy. What do you do after that? I get rejected from Morton at 17. You with Oxford, it's very tough, isn't it? You feel not good enough. I think one of the big things is you're just left. Like, there's not even was there any contact after it? Nah,
like, so what they were like was like, oh, you can still be cut, because they did like this academy thing, like, I'm sure people understand, like, you get like scholarships and stuff like that, like you go into like youth team and stuff, and you get apprentice, and then you get also the academy as well, which is kind of like you still do like college in between and stuff like that. So they're like, oh, you can stay on here. And I was like, that's not what I want to do. I want to be a professional footballer. You know what I mean? So they've said you can still stay on there, and we can see how you go, and maybe introduce you back into the apprentices. I think for me, it's just a confidence thing. If you see him in training, you'll be like, fucking hell, he's amazing. But then he'll get to games and it'll just be like unbelievably nervous, and then it would just ruin me. You know what I mean? Be so nervous that it would just take all the energy at me for the first 10 minutes. And
some people can't understand that.
Yeah.
Even still, I think a big one to go to highlight is James Taverner. When he isn't confident, and you can see his kind of anxiety coming in, it's the whole body language changes. Do you know what I mean? With many players.
Yeah.
But that's one I've seen lately, and it's getting people from the outside world to understand that it can really debilitate you.
Oh, massively.
It can polarise you almost, you know. And for me, it was the same. For me, it was opposite. I was terrible in training.
Right.
Because I felt I was always being judged in training.
Yeah.
And I had this relationship with the Annan fans. They were the best people in the world. I loved them so much. And they loved me because I travelled 350 mile round trip to train and to play. So on a Saturday, I would turn it on and I'd score all these goals. And in training, people would be, Matty Flynn and that would be passing me the ball and it'd be bouncing off me because I'm so anxious.
Yeah.
Do you know when the ball comes and you're judging it and then you're thinking so much about your anxiety, by the time it hits you, it's bounced off you.
Yeah.
It's really brutal. It's really, really brutal. But you were goals. You were a goalie.
No, I was fullback.
Fullback, right? Okay, fullback.
So right or left back. I started off centre mid because I used to obviously replicate Barry Ferguson, who you had on previously.
So you just moving back and
yeah. So I used to like everything about him. I used to do so I used to try and get the number 6 number on my shirt and that, and play centre mid, all this kind of stuff. Even like his mannerisms, you always see him like pull his shoulders back and stuff like that. And then I moved back, which is probably a good decision. Like just more athletic, just like overlapping all the time and stuff like that. So yeah, that was the position I played. So yeah, but as I say, it was just like the anxious side of it. But then you feel like you see other people who aren't, and you're like, oh, they're so confident in that, and you feel like, I don't know, you feel bad, like shit about yourself because you're like, I just want to be like that. You know what I mean? I just want to be more confident. And even my dad was like, right, just, you're good enough. Like, just relax. Like, just don't go and do your thing. It's
Did you ever go and see anyone about it?
I don't know, because I don't know where it came from. Like, I think for me, it was just because I wanted it so badly, so I wanted to do everything right. You know, I think that's what it came from.
That's an easy bit to put, an easy label to put on it.
Yeah.
And that's one that everyone would just say, like you would talk to them, go, you just maybe want it too much. Remember back in the day,
just like a rat.
That's a big thing. Like back then, we would never have went to see someone about.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Your parents wouldn't even been seen it putting you in to go and see someone about
like sports psychology or something like that.
But nowadays, you've got to do that.
Oh, 100%.
And to speak to kids, and I get loads of emails off kids, specifically young males who may be fighting injuries or they're just anxious. Their anxiety is taking over their play. They won't admit it to anyone, but they'll mail me. I'll talk to them about it.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, go and get some help. You know, there's no shame in it. I'm telling you, there's no shame in getting a wee bit of help. Sports psychologist, a doctor, put you on to maybe a psychologist outside of football.
Yeah.
And I think there's a big thing to him. What I want you to tell me is, what was your anxiety symptoms when you were playing football?
Oh, just like so nervous, man. Like I used to, like away games now, I used to sit there just hardly eating that. There's like my appetite was so suppressed, you know what I mean?
Was that the whole week or just the morning?
Just the morning of, yeah. I was just like, fuck.
Did it affect your weeks?
Nah, not really. If it was a big trial or something like that, I'd be like, right, shit, this is, because obviously you're meeting like, a whole new team, and then you obviously got that pressure, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, just like hardly eating that, just be super nervous, like just
sometimes that would change for the whole week.
Oh yeah.
You know, see if especially if I'd made a mistake, and then as the weeks there, it would ruin my whole, it would change a person. I would kind of invert inside myself, and just that whole week I'm really panicking and replaying everything in my head, beating myself up. No, you need to do better. You know, a lot of people are relying on you, and then you would go out on the Saturday and perform again.
Yeah.
In the toilet all morning.
Oh, mate, honestly, yeah, it was mental. It's just not good.
Eating. But what on the pitch? If things started to go wrong, would you crumble that way?
I don't know. There was one or two ways. Either just get really like angry or whatever, or just crumble and just like hide. You know what I mean? Just not want the ball and that. Like you know, it's like the ball comes across, just an easy pass, and you think, oh shit, it's gonna go under my foot, and you're trying to get all right in that. So yeah, just like I would probably like just shadow a little bit. And I remember I used to come off the pitch, and my dad was like, "What the fuck's that? Like you don't even want the ball. You're shying away from it. You know what I mean?" And I was like, "Fuck," you know what I mean? So and it's tough, like because I always knew it used to be great when I had a good game because I would walk into the car and my dad would be like, superb today, you know. But when I didn't have a game, he's just like, but he just wanted the best for me. But maybe it was too like a black and white approach, you know, like
most dads. Most dads change it.
Yeah, just like it's just it's standard. But
that's something Cy Ferry actually says to me. He says, "Don't be too," because he's talking about my wee man, and he was talking about growing up his children, and he was saying, "Don't be too hard on them. Don't be mental teaching them football. Don't be just constant, because they'll fall out of love with it. You'll put too much on them, and it can affect them when they're older." So it's very, very interesting. Talk to me about when you came back up to Scotland.
Yeah, so obviously I was playing football in Scotland and stuff like that, and I went to so many different trials. So like Motherwell, St Mirren, a few different ones. St Mirren was really good. That was the whole summer and stuff like that, all through pre-season, and it just got to a point they were just like, you know, it's just the usual spiel that you're great, but you're just not any better than we got. Because it's like when you trial, you have to be special. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you probably know my cousin Fraser Aird. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he got me in Rangers when it was like Rangers in obviously the financial crisis, and so that was mental for me going into Murray Park and stuff like that, and like just for me like it was great, but I just couldn't enjoy it because I was just like so nervous, man. I was just absolutely shitting it the whole time. So for me, I was like just immediately I just thought I'm out of my depth here. You know what I mean? I shouldn't be here.
What happened when you were there? What talk to me about your experience?
It was good. Like just walked in and obviously you meet all the boys and that, and obviously I knew Fraser, so he was just like, so he's the opposite to me though. He's like the most confident boy they'll probably ever meet. I think we all go through struggles, him especially, but you literally put him into any football team and he'd be, even if he wasn't good enough, he would be like that. And I'm like, how you like that? And he's just like, just because I'm the bollocks kind of thing. Even if he wasn't, you know. But no, it was good. It was a good experience, you know. And then you've seen like players you watch on TV because there's some of the first team players like Kevin Kyle was there and that. So cutting about and like doing big 11. I remember the first thing we did was like a big 11-side game, and I was like, fucking hell, this is just mental. But it was good that I did all right, to be fair. But then it's the usual end of the week, they're just like, oh, you're good, but you're not any better than we got. So then it was just kind of dropping down the levels. And then I kind of found East Stirling. So I was like 17 at the time. But then that's when I kind of found my own, like obviously a massive drop down. But that's when Rangers are still in the league and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I was always kind of on the brink of going towards the first team, but it would just get really good in reserve games where there's no like fans or anything like that. And then get to like the first team games. And I remember there was sometimes good opportunities, but there's one time it was going to be like my debut at like 17 years old, Scottish Cup. And we were like 3-0 up. But the guy who was managing, John Coughlin, he was just so obsessed with getting clean sheets, so he didn't want to play me because just in case, which makes you think like do not trust me, you know what I mean? So and then it just got to a point, just playing all the time, but then just reserves. But the reserve level was like, if you ask anyone who was playing there at that time, it was crazy like intensity because it was basically just all 3 leagues, like so Championship all the way down to League 2, and obviously players trying to get back to full fitness. So it was amazing, but got to a point I was just like, is this really what I want to be doing? Like. Because just like sometimes you just get absolutely smashed like on a cold like Saturday afternoon, you know. And I was just like, and then I got offered a job abroad, like working abroad in Tunisia doing football coaching. So for me, it was kind of letting go of that dreaming and then just going football coaching. I thought, well, my purpose maybe is to help kids not feel the way I felt. Possibly.
I love that. Yeah. Do you think that changed your total approach to coaching?
Aye, massively. Yeah, massively. I mean, we were doing it, sorry to interrupt you, but we were doing it like abroad, so it wasn't that intense. Like, we're just in like a holiday village and stuff like that in Tunisia, so with like Thompson.
Yep.
But still, for me, it was like getting kids who like I could see they were a bit nervous and stuff like that, and I just kind of broke it down. I'm like, right, what are you nervous about? Because I always think like it's like an onion, right? And you got to peel back the layers, and you dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and you actually find the root of the problem.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you're nervous because like maybe their dad's watching you, and then it digs deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and he's got expectations of you, you know. So it could be something like that. So just obviously not going too far into it because you don't want to overwhelm them, but just kind of dig a little bit deeper and just actually make them a bit more present. It's like, right, I just want you to just concentrate on passing the ball and then just see how you get on with that and then just build up. So I guess for me, that was, you might be the same. Like you give an amazing advice, but you can't take it yourself sometimes. And same with PTing as well. Like people coming to me all the time and ask me something and I say things, I'm like, that's brilliant advice, but sometimes you can't take it your own advice, you know.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, we're amazing. Givers are amazing at giving it, aren't they? Yeah. And I think they give for a reason. Like you've been through your anxiety and stuff like that. I love just almost makes my anxiety stay really calm when I'm giving. I feel my best when I'm giving advice or helping people. Or, do you know what I mean? It really, and that's weird. And then sometimes when I'm getting it, I can't take it. I love that. So, what year was it you were at East Stirling? Because I was at Annan 2013,
when
2015.
Rangers in the league and the league.
So the year before.
Yeah.
2012, I just missed you then.
Yeah, I just missed. Yeah, I was always in the first team, but never really like nearly broke in. You know,
that'd have been funny. two guys full of anxiety in the park. I'm a striker and you're a left back.
I know.
Brilliant. Tripping over each other.
I know, mental. Yeah, because my cousin was playing for Rangers at the time, so we always thought they were going to clash almost. But that was hard as well. Like, not hard in a way, like, because I wanted the best for him, but it's weird, like, having a family member who's playing in front of like 50,000 fans, you know, and I'm just getting nervous about playing in like 200, like not even 200 people, you know what I mean?
Cold night at Stoke.
Yeah, it's crazy, like, it's mental. But
and that gives you another thing. You're wanting to
impress you, and then my dad was like, "Oh, it's amazing," you know what I mean? Going to, like, he was to be fair, he was really good with it though. He never like bigged him up too much to the point I felt like it wasn't worth anything. Because
this is that when I believe words matter. I think we all need to be really conscious, and I'm going to be conscious growing my son up. And I think managers, Barry Ferguson's brilliant, the way he talks about coaching. Words matter. Do you know, the wee words you say, like, make it UK, when your dad said something about the 50 and you've just had a howler. You know what I mean? Or just get back, and you can just see it in the demeanour. Sinks you right down to the ground.
100%,
and I think words really matter. And some people will watch this and go, "Oh, you're sensitive dafties and all that stuff." But
usual,
this is a real world problem. This is.
But I think that's huge. Why it gets worse though, because people feel like they can't say anything like that.
Yeah, they can't. I mean?
So
you get the old school people. This says you just get your this and that. I mean, so you know, if
anyone that says they don't get nervous, they probably feel shit anyway. You know what I mean? You even feel like Mike Tyson. That he's like, everyone feels the same. You know what I mean? He's absolutely shitting himself as well. You know
he's been through a lot as well. You know, and he's suffered.
And it's a stress. Like, I think your body's doing what it should be doing. You know what I mean? You're going to an environment where you're going to be judged and stuff like that. So naturally, you're going to be a little bit anxious. You know what I mean? It's drilled into us from. As us as humans, you know what I mean? You're supposed to be part of like a community, so you're always worried about being judged, you know what I mean? So it's always that, but it's just about containing that. But then you almost don't want to open up a little bit because you feel like you're going to be pushed out for being open.
Absolutely. You know? And in football, it's massive. I was talking to Barry Ferguson after the podcast about it, and we need a change there because, you know, from the players to the fans, there's a lot of stuff that's just not accepted still. And it should be. Okay, when you left East Stirling, I want to talk about the years between that and Love Island. How many years was it?
Quite a few, actually, to be fair.
What did you do? What did you get up to?
So I was working abroad for like 2 years. So Tunisia for 2 years, and then Lanzarote for a bit. So yeah, and then came home, and then I was just straight into PT really. So PT for a good amount of years, and still am today. So that was good up in Inverness. So loving it there. So it's nice, you know. Like people always say to me, "Oh, like what's up there? It must be hills and sheep and stuff like that." But it's class. It's just growing all the time, and I think
it's home.
Yeah, for me, like, it's home, you know, like, I've got so many good friends there and people I've only known for like a year or so, but so close to. And yeah, I think you just figure yourself out more and more, like who you are. And just for me, that was my calling, like doing like PT, you know, like trying to help people as much as I can, like doing podcasts and stuff like that. It's huge. So, and it's nice to be like a guest on one today because it's a different dynamic for me.
Yeah, we're very similar that way, me and you know. How did Love Island come about? Your PT from the gym to, you know, you're talking about 250 followers on Instagram to nearly 200,000 overnight. That's nuts.
Crazy,
how do you deal with that?
Man, mate, like, because I'm like a sociable guy, and like especially up in the Highlands, that people know who you are. They're like, "Oh, you're a PT, blah blah blah." And I remember I was just like on my phone, and you get daft messages all the time, don't you? You know what I mean? But then obviously you see the wee blue tick, and that means, oh shit, it's the real deal. So just like ITV basically messaging me saying, "Oh, really like your page, blah blah blah. Like, we want you to apply for the show." And I was like, all right, okay. But the funny story is that I was going to like Amsterdam the next day to go and watch Rangers. So me and my dad used to always go to football games together. So it's been a while, and it was like just past my birthday. So he was like, right, what we'll do is we'll go to a Rangers game together, like in Amsterdam. So I remember the guy, like I filled in the application form. I didn't think anything of it. Like, because people always say to me, "Oh, did you apply?" Or like turn their nose up and say, "Oh, as if you applied for Love Island." I didn't apply. There's nothing wrong with applying, but just this guy reached out to me and went for
ITV slid in your DMs.
Yeah, exactly. That's
what is going on?
Exactly. I was just like, fucking, especially because my following is like so low.
That's
like,
unheard of.
Yeah, I was just like, this is odd. But
do you think he was just scooping through Insta?
I don't know. Like, I think also as well because I do a lot of video content and that as well. Like, maybe. You could actually see what you like because obviously you can hide behind the filters, which is a whole different conversation. You know what I mean? Like, obviously,
we get that a lot with influencers these days.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So yeah, you mentioned about that, and then filled out the application, didn't think anything of it. I was just like, that would do. And then the guy rang me in the airport and saying that, and I was like, literally, I'm just about getting on a plane to Amsterdam. He's like, well, what I want you to do is once you get there, just do a video for me and like basically tell us a bit about yourself and that. So literally got in like some little mad hostel in Amsterdam just before we went out that night, and I remember doing it, not thinking anything of it, and I was like, fucking hell, just do this little video. I just told a bit about myself and that. People always ask to say what you you say like tell them what you said and that, because they want like the secret formula. It's just got to be yourself though, like and just kind of open up. So I did that, and then obviously out in Amsterdam, wild night. Woke up the next day, just absolutely hanging, and then the guy rung me, said, "Right, we absolutely love you. We want to get you in down to London next
Were you
week."
steaming when you done this video?
No, just
Come for that,
I know. No, so that was just before we went out, so I was feeling fine. Like, but then woke up the next day a bit like hanging, like, and I thought, oh, this is actually be something here, and I just got a sense of feeling about it, and then went down to the kind of casting, and that was a weird one, like going down to London by yourself and that, and just going into like ITV studios and stuff, and yeah, they just kind of interviewed me, and this is a situation that probably doesn't happen a lot. So like they do the casting, and usually what they do is they'll wait like a week and get back to you if you basically get to the next phase. So they'll get you in, like they'll do like this, basically so you're front on and get like a picture of you and stuff like that. And I thought that's a bit weird. Like she's like, oh, I'm just gonna take a picture of you to send to the producers because they will be in another room watching it. They're just gonna ask you all these questions and stuff like that. So the girl was sound enough. She was like just really chilled out and just got along well with her. And then the producers came in. I was like, this is a bit weird. So just before that, I said like, oh, when do we find out? And she was like, oh, you find out in a week. Producers came in like, right, so what we're going to do is book you in for next week to get you down again, and you can do like all your tests and stuff like that. I was like, what's going on here? And they obviously walked out. They never do that, I don't think. Like the producers never come in and greet you at that phase. So then I knew like, that's the real deal. I remember calling my business partner. I was like, mate, I think I'm going to be on this show, because I didn't think like anything of it. I just went down for the experience. And then before you know it, just things just grew and grew, and then just ended up on the show, man.
And that was it?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Now, you know me, I hate Love Island. I hate it. You know, I hate all reality TV. I think it's one of the major causes of the mental society we have, the insecurities, the hiding behind cameras, the feeling. And I've been there, feeling insecure, the waiting on likes on Instagram, and people's confidence kind of went out the window, unless you were something that anyone wanted you to be, or other people wanted you to be. My first question for Love Island is, did people change as soon as the cameras went on?
I think so, to a certain degree, you know what I mean? But you get it though as well, like a lot of people are on that show to try and grow their social media following, you know what I mean? And that's the purpose. Like for me, like I had a good career, and remember you used to always say to me like, what are you going to do with the money if you win, or what are you going to do if you became like famous? But not really much different, you know what I mean? For me, I still want to do the same thing. I remember all my clients, like, because basically I couldn't tell them what I was doing, so I had to get my business partner to message them all, say like, oh, basically Wallace has been told I've been asked to go into Love Island, blah blah blah. And I remember they all thought that I wouldn't come back, but I was always going to come back. I was always going to go back to PT, and that's always what I wanted to do. If anything, what I would do if I won the money was maybe invest in like property or try and get like a gym or something like that. I would always going to be stay to my roots, because that's what makes me happy. So as soon as you take that out, and also as well, like you realize like for a lot of influencers, that it's like, apart from like doing a couple of posts a day, like there's not really much else to do. And for me, like I still want to have that calling. I always think like with life as well, like don't know if it's a maturity thing, but I think you should always be trying to do things for other people as well. Like I think when you look back in your life, you don't want to do it all about like me all the time. I think you want to try and impact other people. I remember reading a book about it actually. It's like, I know it's quite a morbid thing to say, but if you imagine like your funeral and like 3 people, like for example, say for example, you were there, my family member was there, my best mate was there, like what would they say about you? And I think that's a big thing for me. Like what would the 3 close people from different dynamics say about me? And if I was just an influencer, just pumping all sorts of products, like they'd probably say like, oh, I don't really know, like don't really know who he was, you know what I mean? Whereas for me, like I connect with clients, connect with people like yourself, and that just through social media. That's a big thing for me, like actually having an influence in the right way. Yeah. So I was always going to go back to my roots.
You want to touch hearts, don't you? That's what you're taking to the grave. You're not going to take the Ferraris with you.
No.
The money's not coming with you.
Yeah.
People will contest that the money's going to your kids, fair enough, but you still you want them to work for it as well, don't you? And I think you're absolutely bang on. And as I've spoken to people and spoken to your close friends, I always do it behind my clients' back, my guests' back. You're one of the only ones that stay true to yourself and stayed the same. And the person you didn't change, you didn't let it change you. You didn't. It's easy to. I get it as well. It's easy to accept £1,000 for a post.
Oh yeah.
You get them offers all the time, but then you almost become. You're chasing that constantly, and that's not you. You're promoting posts that you've probably never even bloody used.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like our friend Biggs with a 6-pack thing. There's no way There's no way you got your 6-pack for that bloody thing. You've been in the house going like that, and then put it on. But I've been asked to do all that as well, and I just can't do it because it's not real and it's not me. And I think as a compliment, one of your friends says, you know, you've always stayed true to yourself and you've never let it change you, which I think is incredible. But there's a lot of people we know and share who we love, but they're in that kind of cash cow, aren't they? They're constantly pumping products and constantly doing things they maybe don't feel comfortable doing. Might not admit it, but you can almost see it. Let's talk about going into the house.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked earlier and you says you do your walk-in, right? Which I thought was a one-timer.
No.
I thought it was a one-timer.
No
you're
way.
like, you can do it up to 10 times. But you walk in, you're like, right, do it again. Oh, for fuck's sake. That means they've seen you about 10 times. So that they're actually acting well seen you. It's basically acting. Let's be honest. That is not real.
Yeah.
And that's what I hate about it, because it's teaching our society to act. It really is. It's had that knock-on effect.
Yeah.
But talk to us about that. Like, give us some insight.
Yeah, just before we kind of go on, like, as you were saying there about, like, obviously all the influence you get from, like, social media and that, and people not being themselves. I think it's a tough one. Like, even, like, maybe advice for people who are going to go on the show. I know we might go into it later, but I think you have to go in when you're in a good place. You know what I mean? If you go in that as an escape, for a lot of people, they hate the job and that, they go into a Love Island and then they get stuck in that trap. But see if you can go back to your normal life and be happy. That's a big thing. But I just thought I would kind of cover that, because I think it's a really important point for me. That people always say to me, like, oh, what would be your advice? And I was like, make sure you're happy within yourself before you go in there. Don't do it as a cover up.
I think that's massive, huge. And let's be honest, I was in my worst place when I actually thought about going on. I actually thought about it. Was a boy, Kevin, and he'd, can't remember his second name. He was a PT. You might remember him. He went on down to Big Brother for auditions, and I was thinking of doing it. You know, young, I was handsome at the time. I wasn't a big chub, and I wasn't in a good place. It's filling a void. And let's be honest, I don't know. I'll probably get messages about this, but 90% of contestants not in that good place. There's no chance. We've seen the effects that the show's had on contestants, and that's the thing. It is, you want the fame. Let's be honest. You're not going for love. No one's going on that show for love.
Even if you find it, you could be miles apart.
Maybe, miles apart. It's just not realistic as it's reality TV. I feel my personal opinion of it is really damaging to society, and I think it's an overshadowing pressure. And my show's about pressures of society. It's such an overshadowing pressure to society. But the show sells.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Millions of people want to watch it.
People love watching people.
My missus loves it.
Yeah.
She watches the Australian one now, the Jamaican, whatever the hell one. She just, and I said to you, there's something about it, didn't we? We were talking. I hate the show, right? And she's like, no, please just sit and watch it with me one day after work. So I watched 3 nights in a row. I swear to God, I started falling in love with it. And I'm like...
It's no surprise though, because like people who create these programs, people who create like social media platforms and that, they make them for a certain way to engage you. You know what I mean? So they'll leave little cliffhangers so it draws you in, and then they'll make you kind of, because everyone picks like their favorite person, you know what I mean? So like they're like, oh, I'm really invested in that person, and then you make like, nah, they're a bit of a dick or whatever, and then that's what it was all about. You invest in these
attachment,
people, you know. But back to your question, because sorry, I know I kind of like went off on a bit of a tangent about like how they kind of dress it up. It makes sense though. Like they're not going to come in and like you're going to be like, I don't know, like just look really off, you know what I mean? But also,
that's reality.
No, I know. But it's a tough one. Like, and I know where you're coming from, but obviously it needs to be some sort of flow to it, I guess. But it's tough because people do say that, like, oh, do you just make it like a full reality, like just totally transparent? Because obviously they cut so many bits out, you know what I mean? So it's a tough one because we do have to keep on doing the walk, like, right, you're not in time with each other, and I want you to look this way. Like, I would look at the villa and stuff like that. And
what are you doing in your 5th walk down to see the guests? What are you thinking? How many times you do yours?
What, the walk up?
The walk in. When they're all looking at you.
Oh, no, they didn't. That was just the walk into the villa. Like, we didn't actually do the walk in. That was just a one take, you know what I mean? Unless you did something like terribly daft. I think you'd like if you ran and jumped in the pool or something like that. They'd just
what was your walk in? What?
So just like basically just walking in and like all the slow mo stuff. So they would get you all up close, and it was like me and Demi walking in together. So you have to look at each other and then walk in and all this kind of stuff. So you have to do it
constantly in your face.
The cameras. Oh no, sometimes they'll come in with a big rig and that, and they just do little bits, and they're like, right, let's go, let's get more enthusiasm for like all the slow mo, like champagne pop and stuff and that.
How hard is that though? If you're in and you are feeling anxious, you suffer from anxiety, so you are feeling anxious, and they're going, no, terrible. We need more enthusiasm. How do you get that? How do you, without being someone you're not?
I think even before you go in there, you're a little bit anxious, you know, because they do like the most thorough like social media scan you've ever seen in your life. Like things I wouldn't even think of. They were like, you have to take that down. Like even pictures like me and my mates and that. Oh, your mate looks like he's on something. I was like, none of my mates do that, so it wouldn't be the case. But they were like,
and even so,
it's
none of their bloody business.
Yeah, exactly. So could you take that down? And then there's just little things like just so many different bits. You know what I mean? Just things you wouldn't even think of that you just need to take that down. They would just remember. I was like almost like I remember ringing my business partner. I was like, "Do you actually think this is worth it?" You know what I mean? Because there's been so many instances, and they try and scare you all the time. You know, like I remember. Boy, Adam Collard, he's a PT as well. He got trying to stitch up, and they tell you about all these horror stories. So, like, I remember, like, there was a paparazzi, and they threw like a bag of like it wasn't even like cocaine. I don't know what it was, like baking soda on the ground, and then tried to get a picture of him beside it, just setting you up. You know what I mean? And there was warnings about like watch what Instagram stories you're in because someone could be doing something in the background, like they could be doing drugs in the background or whatever. And then if you're in that, so just all this kind of stuff. And you obviously see them all come out, like all the exes start doing texts, like showing screenshots, all that. So you're already in your head, you're like, fuck. Like, this is a big thing, so you have to make sure.
There's a video of you naked.
Yeah, exactly. Just all sorts of shit. You know what I mean? You don't know what's going to come out of the woodwork. Luckily, I'm quite a well-behaved guy.
Dancing in the moonlight.
Yeah, so that already, you're on like, fuck. And then when you're in there, you try not to think about it, be like, what do people think of me? You know what I mean? And then you say certain stuff and you're like, because obviously, you are allowed to go, if you say something well out of line, you're allowed to go and say like, oh, I can't have that beard, you know what I mean? And you could probably challenge it. But you are wary, you know what I mean? And I remember when I first went in, I was a bit like, I don't know if I want to be here. Like, it's just a bit strange because it was very stop-start. So we were like on the dates and stuff like that, and they were just like big pauses. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna come back to this in a second, but we're just gonna capture some filming down there." So just sitting there, and then like literally, then you would kind of switch off a little bit, and you'd be talking to the contestants, like, "Oh, how you feeling? That you quite nervous?" I was like, "What the fuck's going on here?" I was like, "This is like a fucking film set." I was like, "This is odd." You know what I mean? And then you go back, and then you go back to the normal conversation again. And I was like, "This is not good." Like,
and when you're sitting, you're like, "Oh, yeah, a wee bit nervous." Or you feel, "Oh, don't worry." And then when they click it, and then you're straight into.
And it's like you're waiting your dinner and like going for the date and stuff and that. Like, also, what do you do? Like so. Yeah, it's weird, man.
Just because they've told you to say, "Oh, what should you do?" You're doing. It's so. I hate that scriptedness of it.
And they're like,
it's just
it's tough one.
I think it's dangerous because you're putting people. It's almost easier to go on to Love Island or any reality TV show and be someone you're not. Surely that's easier to get through the whole show than to be who you really are. And what it sounds like to me is you were being who you really were, and it just wasn't working. And you were like, did you struggle to have that change? Because let's be honest, if I go in there and I'm acting, I'm going, right, I'm Kenny, I'm going to say this, I'm going to be cool, I'm going to be this guy. I'll act that whole show because I know it's getting me 2 million followers. I might say something controversial. I might plan it with Kemp or whoever's beside me, or you that's beside me, and I go, listen, see if we say that and we say that about her, they'll hate us for a month. We'll get about 1 million followers, and that's happened loads of times.
Mate.
You know, with your mic and stuff like that, they might say something, or as you said to me before we came on today, they can actually twist things to make it look as if you're the villain.
Yeah, massively. Or make you look a certain way. Like people like to me, like, oh, you're quite shy. You seem quite bored in that. And I was like, well, they've not shown you all the other parts. You know what I mean? But it's fine. You know what I mean? Like, it's
too easy saying it's fine, isn't it? It's too easy to go, it's fine because the show, it is what it is basically. But do you think
depends where you're at, mate.
That's not you? You know, that's you are energetic. You're funny. Even meeting you this morning for a few hours, you know, you are not the guy I seen on that TV.
But the thing is, the people who know me really well, like they know what I'm like. No, so that's all that matters. So I don't give a shit. At a personal
level, you're up here.
So I don't give a shit where like I don't know, like Kevin212 on Instagram says like, "Oh, you're boring." And that I don't care about that. You know what I mean? Because you're never going to meet him. And also as well, that's probably coming from a place of insecurity. You know what I mean? So you got to kind of like feel sorry for these people. But it's easier said than done. That's for me. But I know, like, I'm saying things, but that doesn't help some people that are struggling. But I think you have to come from a place where the people around you know who you are, but also as well, you're in a good place. Because for me, like, if it didn't work out, I had nothing to lose. So I was like, well, I'm going to go back to a job I like anyway. It was hard at first because, like, you feel like a bit of a failure. Like, I was like, oh, shit, I could have done better. And then you worry, like, people are like, oh, you only last, like, a day on Love Island. And
how could you have done better when they made you look as if you were Boring Wallace instead of the guy who you actually are? What could you have done better? Because they might not have edited it in. You, as you said earlier, you think the scripts are maybe there. Scripts is maybe there already to have you in. This guy come in, handsome, gets half the nation hooked on him. And then we waft him out because we're playing this story because it's more dramatic or whatever. Do you think that's there? They know before?
I think so. Like, they'll have a perception. Like, they don't know what you're going to be like. You know what I mean? Because the thing is with the casting, it's literally just like this. So they don't know. They can see your Instagram and they can see you one-on-one. So they don't know what you're going to be like around a group of people. You know what I mean? I could go on there, I could be really aggressive. You know what I mean? Don't really know. I could have been like squaring up to people, all this kind of stuff. Or you could have been like just someone who just totally outrageous and like you literally can't air any of that because of what you just said. You know what I mean? Like you could have just been out of control. But you're going to tone it down a little bit. You know what I mean? And people say, oh, you're not being yourself. Then it's like you have to go in with the realms of what's there. You know what I mean?
I love the whole aspect of going in, being in a good place.
Yeah, massively.
And being at one with yourself. You know, some people would argue, would you want to the show if you're in a good place? Would most people, would you get people that would go on? Or most people maybe not in a good place and they're going that to fill the void, as you said. It's very interesting. Now, do you think that Love Island need to do more intensive vet people more to just check they're in a safe mindset? Because obviously we've had Caroline Flack now, and a few contestants take their own life who have been associated to Love Island. Now that's no
surprise. Yeah,
it's consistent. You know, for me it was no surprise at all, because it's so damaging. You know, and what I'm seeing is the way Love Island contestants, the way the Love Island team or any reality TV show, but we're talking about Love Island, are make it their filming to make someone look a certain way. I feel so many younger people, or so many people our age and younger, are copying it. Like, I feel like we have a society now of young boys and girls who want to be and try to be awkward. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
They want to be the most awkward person in the room because it's a new thing. It's like the Love Island thing of girls and boys, mostly the women, being really awkward towards different things. And you'll see it. You'll see it a mile off. You'll see, you'll be in a room somewhere, a party, or not in lockdown obviously, but a party or anywhere, and you'll see someone deliberately just try to say something awkward because they think it's they think it's cool, they think it's the thing to do. That's damaging to a lot of people, you know. I've seen it firsthand in the gym. I see it all the time. Do you think that's an effect from what they're seeing in the TV?
Yeah, I know you were saying about like, should they like kind of like vet it and stuff like that. It's a tough one, you know, because someone who really wants something and is kind of a little bit desperate, maybe is probably going to give them more to the show. You know what I mean? Like, if you really want to be successful and famous, you're probably going to like throw your kitchen sink at it. You know what I mean? Super enthusiastic. Whereas me, it's like, if I get put off the show, you know what I mean? It's not the end of the world. Obviously, at first, it's just it's never nice getting rejected, but it's like, well, I'll just go back to my same old shit. You know what I mean? Just go back to the life I like to live. But no, I know what you mean, like, because people watch that and they're like, oh shit, is that the way you're supposed to act? You know what I mean? Is that what's cool? Is that what gets you social proof? Being that way. So it's hard. And people are just normal, you know what I mean? Like, people see you on TV and think you're going to be a certain way, but you're just like any old person, you know?
Yeah, I get it. So what was the overall atmosphere like on the show? Was it like a competitive environment, or was there support for each other? Was contestants supporting each other behind the scenes, or was it just a wee bit more all for one?
You never really know until you leave the show, though, do you? You know what I mean? Because when you're in the moment, like, you don't know who's being genuine, who's not. So you don't know, you know? But no, there wasn't like a competitiveness to it, but I definitely think people just leveled up a little bit, like relationships and that, especially in the evening stuff when you knew like that was when it's going to be a lot of airtime and stuff, like people just leveled up a little bit more. And then if you're not in a couple, you're just kind of like there just chilling out, you know? And then you have to survive, you have to try and force a relationship, you know? And that's what I did at first. And I was like, and then I held my hands up and like, I remember being in the beach chat and he was like, nah, I'm not actually being myself here. I don't actually like this person. So I'm going to have a chat with him. And then I ended up just getting put out. And I was like, well, I would rather go out that way rather than faking it. And then all my mates are like, you didn't like her at all. I know what you like. I know what you like. You know what I mean? And they were kind of like, why'd you do that? Like, obviously they would still be with you, but they'd be like, I don't really know who, like, do we know who you are? You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, and also got to think like, what's the incentive there? Like, say for example, you do get like amazing like deal with like Boohoo or like whoever it might be, like clothing brand. It's like, was it really all worth it? You know, to lose like people who were closest to you who didn't like resonate with who you were. Like, the big thing for me, I remember you only have one phone call and like the kind of secret villa and that once you got papped out. So my mum didn't know I got papped out and she was like really upset in that. Like, she was, because I was always a day behind. And she was like, I was like, right, how did I come across? Not from like an insecure place, but I was like, how did you think I did? She was like, nah, you're totally yourself. Like, I'm just really proud of you, you know what I mean? Whereas see, if I had that conversation, she'd be like, that's not how you act. Like, I know what you like, you know? And You just tell. They would never tell you that, but you just know. That was a big thing for me. Yeah.
That's why people always said I would be terrible. They always said go and do something like that back in the day, and I'd be terrible because I'm myself like you, and people don't like you being yourself is boring. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, in some ways, if you're not faking, it can be really boring for people to watch. It's not going to fit on that kind of show, really, is it? Unless you are like that as a person. But for me, going on, you know, I'm fitness, I'm helping people, love positivity. People are going to be like, yeah, this guy off. I want some, you know, I want some banter and some cursing and some bitching about him, and I want him to do this nasty thing to that girl, and I want him to be the villain for a week. The whole UK hates him, but they secretly love him. Then he's the good guy, you know.
It's a hard one though, because the whole dynamic could have changed for me. Like, we could have been someone in there who I was just like, who lived quite like close to me, you know what I mean? Maybe lived in Glasgow or something like that, and I could have really liked them, you know what I mean? And went in with that, like, this could potentially be a thing, and then a completely different side to you could have come out, you know what I mean? And someone could have actually seen you like falling with someone on TV or whatever. But for me, like, there's no one like that. Or someone could have done something that really, really annoyed me, who like maybe crossed the barrier in terms of my morals and that. And then you see a different side to you. It all depends on how the dynamic plays out, you know? Like, you could have went on there and someone could have said something like, oh, mental health's a load of piss or whatever, and you'd be like, what? Like, and that could just trigger, you know what I mean? So
I probably punched them out.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So just,
no, violence is never the answer.
But you just don't know what it's going to happen on that show, you know what I mean? And then it could just be like, you could do that like 100 times, it would be completely different, you know? Like, you could have been different contestants, you could have connected with someone, then you just don't know what's going to come off.
What about couples when they're with each other? So couples with each other in the show, and the camera goes off. Yeah. Or sometimes they just go their separate ways. Like, do like make it?
I don't think so, because you know the cameras are there, so it's always pretty full on. But the thing is, you got to remember as well, like, it's crazy how much people like get invested in you though. So people don't realize that you do get in a bit of a bubble, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, you do get kind of normal to it, and like, you forget the cameras are there, you're just having normal chats. It's like going from that and then to, I wasn't in a couple, but even coming out of that, and the amount of attention you get, like, it's just your DMs are just full. Yeah. So for being in a couple that maybe not you're 100% with, you're just like, oh, do get along well with them, to that. I don't think it shows that, and I don't think people that really switched off as such. I think maybe turn it up a little bit when the cameras are on, but that's normal.
Because you got with Kemp, isn't it?
Who's that?
Kemp, the one from years ago. He done kind of singing with the other guy. Was it Kemp? He had the long hair.
Oh, right, yeah, yeah.
Remember, he came out and said a bit about it, and he was talking about there was. I'm sure he said this. You'll need to sort me in the comments. He said about like they would get a Saturday off to go to the beach or something, and he says there would be couples going with each other in the show, but they would actually be going with the other person. So on the Saturday off or the Sunday off, whatever it was, they would then just go and spend time with the person they're actually with, and then when the cameras turned on, they had to revert back to being with the other person. I'll get this and I'll put it in the I'll put the article in the comments. But he got in trouble. I think he got a bit of blitz for coming out and talking about it.
I think our one was different though. I think even the producers said that they're like, we've never had a cast get along this well.
Genuine attractions.
Yeah, they're like, I remember we used to all sit together, and they're like, they kind of said to us like, can you just spread out a bit? I remember that. I was like,
that's really cool.
Yeah, which is a good thing. So they were like, we can't fault you for it, but we just need a bit more. We can't just have you all together because it's like you're all getting on too well. Yeah, there's no violence, no nothing. So I think they actually almost did too well in terms of everyone just got along, everyone had similar kind of morals.
I think that's why like people get papped out and they bring people in maybe like, okay, I don't think you'll get on with him.
Even the people brought in just wasn't really like, you know, it's like, I don't know, I'm sure you speak to like, if you ever speak to Biggs and that and the Casamore boys, they did manipulate things a little bit with that, because usually they do like, they send pictures across from Casamore and all that, so they do the separate villas. And obviously if you're with someone and they go to the separate villa and you've got a picture of them, your whole dynamic's going to change. So for them, they basically put them in a position where they couldn't be successful because they didn't put that span in the works, you know?
Right, okay.
So they changed the dynamic a little bit there, because you got like, because you probably like, you got the whole, I don't want to make this like Love Island show, but you got the whole thing with like Shauna, and then like you got like Molly and that, like with Callum, and that was a big massive thing, wasn't it? Like obviously Callum came back with Molly, and then there was like this big thing, like, so they were never gonna get a position where Shauna was like maybe given a picture before that to change it, so she knew already, if that makes sense. Yeah, if you follow along. Yep. So they just kind of kept it, so she was like almost thinking, oh no, Callum's still going to be with me, blah, blah, blah. And he came back and just made this big explosion.
Wow.
Rather than letting something maybe actually happen. Because people were so restricted until, like, for example, if you see a picture with the person you're with getting with someone, it's obviously going to be a whole different dynamic.
You're not in full control then.
Yeah.
If you're not in full control of, you're not really full in control of your feelings on that show if they can manipulate it like that.
Yeah, a little bit like that, yeah.
It's pretty dangerous for me. But it's a show, you know, even myself, you know, I'm sure if I'd watched a few more episodes, I would have been hooked.
Yeah,
because I was at work the next day and I was thinking about the episode I've watched the next day.
And everyone digs so deep as well, and like obviously all the journalists and stuff like that, they made things up about me, like all sorts of stuff, like not anything crazy, but they
literally just made it up.
I thought it was so more about like where I lived and that. So they was like they did a big spiel on like my apartment, and then so basically they got 3 different pictures. So they got like my mum and dad's house, where obviously I grew up, and then the house up in Inverness, and then my mate's apartment. So they pieced them all together, and they like said that was my apartment. So it was all like different things, and it's like, oh, this is a run through of Wallace's bachelor pad and all this kind of stuff.
You should have wrote back to them, please. Can I have that apartment, please?
Yeah, I know.
Can you buy it for
was
me?
my mate's apartment. Basically, they kind of said it was like part of it, so he was just pissing himself. But yeah, it's funny.
In hindsight, to your experience in Love Island being all positive, is there anything you regret, and would you do it all again?
Would I do it all again? I think I would. Yeah, like I think I would. Yeah, because I'm still in a good place. You know what I mean? So I would just go for it and go and enjoy it. You know what I mean? And obviously, like for me, like you obviously do want to be with someone in that, like the big thing. So obviously, it's not the best situation to do it, but obviously, it's always nice to meet people. And I'm a big advocate of put yourself in uncomfortable positions. You know what I mean? And a different dynamic.
Like you prosper and grow.
Oh yeah, massively. You know what I mean? You go into this social situation, but depends on the situation. Like I think it's one of them ones that I didn't desperately need to do it, but I thought I'll just get it off the bucket list. You know what I mean? I'll go and do it. It's cool to be able to say to like kids and that, all that your dad was on TV, whatever.
Yeah.
Not as like a massive achievement, but nah, don't know if I would do it again. It's just like you can't say because you just don't know how it's going to turn out. And then for me, it's like always got to think like, you don't want to overanalyze it. But you always got to think like, what's the product of this? You know what I mean? Like what's the purpose?
For sure.
For me,
did the producers ever give any specific support around mental health, suicide? Did they give you support, a bit of awareness? Was there a cloud because of what had happened with the previous suicide? Do you think there was a cloud hanging over the show? Was it drilled in, that support?
To be fair, before we went on, they did do like a lot of counselling and stuff like that. They run through and they have like a big screen test to make sure you're okay. But I generally think you could probably manipulate your answers a little bit if you're calm and relaxed.
You could do what you want to get on the show.
Oh yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah, you could do.
Probably you would turn out not to be yourself, and that's why I would be so scared of that show, because it would kind of condition you into being someone different. Well, you could almost lose yourself in the fame, couldn't you?
If you want it enough, you'll just say things like, "Oh, have you ever struggled with mental health?" And you'd be so worried about. Yeah, exactly. Be so worried about not getting the show. So you'd be like, "No, I'm fine."
It's like a football medical.
No.
Oh,
your knee sore? No,
I've had a knee surgery. No.
So you know what I mean. So if someone really wants that, you know what I mean. This is people's big break. So I guess they could be a little bit more delving a little bit deeper. You know what I mean? Maybe asking family members or stuff like that, like how actually are they? You know what I mean? Rather than just me and you know what I mean?
What about on the set?
On the set, good. They used to always come in. So they used to come in like during lunchtime, like, how are you feeling? You're right. And then you always got the option to go and see one of the counsellors and stuff like that.
That's good.
Which is really
good. That's really good.
Yeah, so you used to always be able to go in, and then the moment you leave, they would give you like a little run through, and then like, how you feeling? And I was like, a bit gutted and stuff like that, but it's what it is. And they do everything though. They check like obviously your resting heart rate, your blood glucose, all this kind of stuff to make sure. And then obviously do like your weight and that to make sure you're in a good spot, especially if you're not in there for a long period of time, because your blood sugar's through the roof, and if your resting heart rate's went up, obviously its health markers are all off. So they do look after you, you know what I mean? And then once you get out, they do like a proper analysis and see where you're at. And that was good. And then you get like the option of 8 weeks of counselling, which at first I said no to. I was like, nah, I'm fine. I was like, well, what's the harm in doing it? You know, you could learn something, you know? So I did that, and it was good, especially through lockdown and that, just to kind of run through it. Because I remember running, like, I almost got this perception of like, I let people down or whatever, or I failed in the show and that. And they were like, but you've not seen how far you've come. You've made it through. Like, there's more people apply for Love Island than they do for like Oxford University, and you've made it through that. Like, take it positive rather than being like, because my thing was always been better. It's like, for example, if you did stay in the villa for longer, what's next? You know what I mean? Then you got to win it. And then after that, what's next? You know what I mean? Then being the most successful at all of them. You know what I mean? It's just the never end. There's always going to be someone better than you. You know, it's like football. There's always going to be someone better than you. There's always someone make more money than you. So I think you just got to appreciate, you know what I mean? And just realize how far you come, because some people give everything to be on that show. So that was good with the counselling, like running through that. And obviously it's tough as well, because you got a lot of pressure with what to say in certain matters, you know, and like anything that comes up, because when you got a bit of social influence, people expect you to talk on everything. Like, no matter what happens in the world, you should be saying it. Like, everything that came up, people are like, oh, I can't believe you not spoke about this. Like, but I don't know, it's tough. I think I'm a bit cautious about talking about things you're not majorly well versed in. So it's a tough one.
Yeah, no, I like that there's support after it,
Yeah.
like a screening there for people.
No,
to
it's
go
good.
in
I think it's a
and
lot
get
better than it
some
used
help.
to be by what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, most probably. They probably maybe didn't understand or they hugely underestimated the impact it could have on our contestants, because it has a huge impact. It's had a huge indirect impact on a lot of its watchers.
Yeah.
And people might watch this and have a go at me for this and that, or for berating. I'm not berating it. The show is, as my missus would say, the best show she's ever watched. She loves it, you know.
Uh-huh.
And most people I know love it. I'm just trying to get an understanding, really interested in it.
Yeah.
And it has had an indirect effect. We can't, even if it's not had an indirect effect to you, it's had it to many, many, many people. And it's changed the whole, not just Love Island, reality TV has changed the whole thought process and the standard of young men and women, what they have to look like, the standard of what they must be earning, what they have to be seen with, you know, the body they have to have.
That's interesting, that one.
Oh, for sure. So you're into your health and fitness.
Yeah.
Massively into your health and fitness like me. What do you think's more important?
Right.
Looking good or feeling good?
Feeling good 100%. You know what I mean? 100%. It's like...
What do you think the public thinks more important on
good.
Instagram?
Oh yeah, looking good all the time. You know what I mean? That's what like sex sells. You know what I mean? So if you look good, like for example, like, obviously you should. I do believe that you should practice what you preach and things like that. Like yourself, you know what I mean? Good shape and that. Like I do think you should go through that. But you got to remember, like, just because someone looks a certain way doesn't necessarily mean they're amazing at what they do. You know, like someone could be an absolute amazing rig, you know what I mean, like unbelievable shape, but they just don't know how to connect with people, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, I would probably argue, like, maybe there's people who are leaner than you, whatever, like maybe at this moment in time, same with me, people are probably leaner than me, you're bigger than me, you know what I mean? Like all these different kind of things, and people compare themselves, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're a better or worse
doesn't
coach.
mean they have more knowledge.
Exactly, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And my big thing, like, is like the best I've ever looked was when I was competing and stuff like that. So I did like a UK drug free, like the UK TFP show in Scotland. So did that, and people were like, "Oh, you must feel like amazing. You look so good. Like literally, like so low body fat." But I felt like absolute shit. Relationship with food was all over the place. You know, business was fucked because it was just like I was just cancelling clients and stuff like that because I didn't feel
it's not sustainable
because I was servicing myself. You know what I mean? But then now, people get too attached to that and feel like that's what you walk around like all the time. So you're a bit like, oh shit, people are gonna think I'm like lean all the time. But then now I'm in a good spot. Like I'm still good shape. You know what I mean? A lot of people like think it's a bit of a kick in the teeth, maybe saying I'm out of shape. Like not at all. I'm in good shape now, but maybe not as lean as I was. But I feel so much better. I've got a good relationship with food. I'm not like kind of focused on it all the time like I was when I was competing. Not dragging my heels and just doing cardio constantly. You know? No,
I think you're absolutely bang on. I think the dynamic has changed, and I think reality TV has a lot to do with that, and social media. That we have to look a certain way, and what's more important, looking good or feeling good? For a lot of people, even a lot of people I know, I help a lot of influencers, as you know, they'll text me, I'll help them through their, you know, how to keep their mindset in a good place while, you know, they're posting for likes and stuff like that, because that's what they're doing at the end of the day to try and sell products. And their main focus is looking good. Like, they don't care about feeling good because they're so conscious of the person they are online. That label they have online, they're not that person inside, but they are there and they have that person. So they go home with their mum and dad to themselves. So as that phone goes on, you're almost two people. I felt myself at one point like it as well. I was waiting for likes, so I'm sitting maybe with my mum sometimes, and then my phone will go on, I'll look at my phone and I'll have to kind of warp into this online person I am. To look this way, to do this, to do that, and that was consuming me. Might not get enough likes on a post. I would think about it all for my next post, and I know there'll be thousands of you out there the same right now, and you might not admit it, but I was like, oh my god, what do I need to do differently? I need to word it better. I need to have a better pick. The lighting needs to be better. I need to get more likes next week. It's a real dangerous place to be, because there was a story of the girl on Twitter, and someone had said about the catfish thing. She was getting thousands of followers on Instagram, and you're in control of your pics on Instagram. We can make ourselves look as good as we want or as bad as we want. And then she was seen out in a club, and she didn't look like the picture on her Instagram. Which of course you're not. If it's, you know, we all like our wee filters now and again, course, you know. And someone had took a picture of her in the club or whatever, and then a picture of her Instagram, put them side by side and caned her on Twitter like we
Yeah.
love to do these days.
Yeah.
She took a damage for that. She wouldn't leave the house.
Yeah.
Because, and you'll see that, a lot of girls will not, a lot of men and women will not, so most of the girls I deal with, a lot of men and women will not turn up to certain things. They'll maybe have to go to an event. They won't turn up because they're not the person on their Instagram.
Yeah.
And we've all slipped into it, you know, putting wee highlight filters on, smoothing the picture, make ourselves look good, hiding big zits and all that. And fair enough, looking good because we can on Instagram, but not so it changes you and kind of makes you warp into this person that you're not and can have a really damaging effect that you can never, ever, ever live up to the person on your social media because you can be anyone you want to on that.
Yeah.
And you might not have the necessary tools to be anything you want without the phone.
And people start to believe that, you know what I mean? That's who they are. But I think the key is like just being open with your insecurities and that as well, you know, because then no one can really offend you know what I mean? So, like, for example, you're saying like something about a big zit or whatever. If someone says, oh, fucking you got a big zit in your face, like, yeah, I know, like, it's not a problem.
Absolutely.
But see if you're like, oh shit, do I, you know what I mean? Like, if you already know your insecurities and you can kind of own them a little bit and it's just who you are. But the problem now is like, everyone's getting their insecurities covered up. So now you know you've got the ability to do that. It's like shit, you know what I mean? You felt them out and then when does it go? And then you start discovering more and more and more because everyone always wants to be better. You know, no one's ever stagnant.
Where does it stop? We always just want more. Something I've conditioned myself and bring myself back, pull myself back from. Like not constantly chasing more.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need more all the time now. I don't need this. I don't need that. I don't need to drive a better car. I don't need to have a bit of this, have a bit of that. It will come in time. If I work hard, I'll stay in my own lane and I won't keep wishing for that. It's in the future. Can't deal with that. You know, I can't change that. You know, I can work in the present, take things day by day, be the best person I can today, and then try and be a better person tomorrow. I believe if I keep doing that, but it's all right, me and you sitting here with quite strong mindsets at the moment. It's not going to be always that way, you know, at the moment, and saying you just don't let that affect you. You just don't let that because thousands, probably millions of people in Britain do.
Yeah.
You know, they do. They are controlled off their social media. They're controlled off what other people say. I wrote a post on try not to be strong on the opinions of, or the strings of the opinions of others. So other people around you, you know what I mean, on Instagram, or get their puppets and the strings coming down and you're there and whatever their opinion is, you're changing for it.
Yeah.
We get that a lot, you know, and then we start the negative comments like the Paul 212 or whatever you said. The guy sitting on the couch probably doesn't even care about the show, probably just caning you because he's seen you somewhere and it's resonated. Or his missus just says, that's a handsome big Scottish man.
Yeah, that's the thing though. Like, you know what I mean?
So it's harder to, how do we get this awareness into the young people? Because I'm scared for my son growing up. I really, really am, because it's the way it is now. You know, how do we get this awareness in this technological era? You know, how do we, when phones are almost the other half of us, you know, see if we could cut ourselves in half of it would be a blooming iPhone or a Samsung, you know. So how do we, what do you think? What do you
think? The big thing you got to ask yourself is like, who would you be without Instagram? Like I say that to people all the time, you know what I mean? Like, who would you be like if you weren't taking a picture of everything, you know what I mean? Like, take all that away. Who are you, you know what I mean? I think that's a big thing. And I think kind of like drilling that into kids in a good way. It's like, make sure that's not becoming who you are. Make sure you're a good person. Like, you don't need that. Like for me, like, I don't really post that much. Like I post now and again and I think, oh, I should be better. You know what I mean? I'll do like stories now and again. Whereas I used to be all the time. I was like, maybe it doesn't help my following and that it comes down, but at the end of the day, I know if it goes away, it's not the end of the world. I just do the normal thing. You know what I mean? For a while, you get caught up with like having the blue tick and having this social proof and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you don't want to hang about people who fall into that trap anyway. So they'll only talk to you because you got a blue tick or a certain amount of followers, you know? Obviously,
and this is happening.
It's great when you get good opportunities, you know what I mean? You get given free clothes and stuff like that. And it's amazing, right? But I think it's hard. It's easier said than done. I don't think it's always going to be there. So it's just about how you can manage it better.
And how we regulate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it, is it parents teach it? Is it us teaching our kids? Is it schools? Is it regulating use of social media, which probably wouldn't be liked?
Yeah.
Is you know, because I'm bad as well. I've whatever I talk about, guys, on the show, it's mostly, even if I talk in a negative way or like a positive way that might come across negative, I'm thinking it's positive to help people. It's because I've been through it. I've done all this rubbish that I used to do. I used to be a pure dick. So I did. I was ignorant, selfish, horrible wee guy, just cared about Instagram and likes and looks and girls and cars and rubbish that just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That just, it's not in here, it's not in there, it just doesn't matter, and it changed me.
Yeah.
And it took me to the worst place I've been with other components in there.
Yeah.
But what we talk about, you're a big man on routines as well.
Mm-hmm.
What we talk about, why is the routine or the morning routine so important to you?
It's a huge one, right? And so many people point the finger and like, oh, you don't have to have like cold showers and meditate and like do a gratitude journal and stuff like that. But that's half the problem. Like people put the stigma and like kind of like make fun of it, you know what I mean? Which is fine. Like it's not fine, but people can do what they want, you know what I mean? But I think it's so important to service yourself first thing in the morning, you know what I mean? That's probably when your mind's the most clear, than when you can really kind of gather your thoughts, because you're not got this accumulation, because you've had so many conversations throughout the day, you've had so many instances of when the stress has been high. But at the end of the day, you're like, it's all built up. Whereas the morning, so clean slate, probably no one's going to call you first in the morning. So if you can get that right, I think it just sets you up for the day. And also as well, creates momentum. Because if you start with losses, you know what I mean? So like first thing you do is like sitting in your bed and scrolling for Instagram, comparing yourself, and you see some other guy like, I don't know, partying and out of beat or something like that, you're like, oh fuck, I'm going for a like 12-hour shift or whatever. You know what I mean? It's always gets you that negative mindset. And then if you like even shit like you're leaving your bed all like messy and that, and then you always hear people say like that's what I always say as well, make your bed, because that's the first win. It actually makes you think, right, you get a wee dopamine hit from it as well in a good way, and then you're like, right, that's a little win for the day, and it gives you a little more momentum as well. And you're like, right, okay. And even if nothing goes well that day, you come back, nice fresh made bed, and I can't like say that's my own. I've heard that before in other podcasts and things like that, but that's a massive one for me. And for me, it's just kind of building up, and if you can start off the day by trying to get like the best start to your day possible, no matter what's happening, and then you could always just keep that the same, because as I said, nothing's really going to change unless something really dramatic happens in the first hour when you're awake. As I say, probably no one's going to call you, no one's going to interrupt it, so just make sure that's your time. And I really think I'm a big believer in terms of you can't serve from an empty vessel. So if you're trying to serve other people, you've got to make sure you service yourself first. Like, so for me, it's like those little habits make sure my day goes well. And to kind of run through it, I guess, like, so what I usually do is like make my bed, so that's the first win, and then I'll go downstairs, same as you, hydrate myself, because obviously you've been asleep for like 8 hours, so you've obviously not had any water during that time. What a lot of people do is the first thing they do is like have caffeine, and obviously it's a diuretic, so it makes them even more hydrated. So big thing there. Then I'll do like, maybe sometimes I'll do a little bit of meditation wherever I'm at. And I think some people hear the word meditation, they think, fucking hell, like you're sitting there humming, you know what I mean? And like, it's not like that. It's just literally letting you, it's just, but it's funny, right? Like, because people don't even realize, like, when you have those like good thoughts when you're in the shower and that, and you like think of amazing ideas, or you're driving somewhere and you're like, fucking hell, I could be multi-millionaire with that idea. The reason for that is because you're just zoning out, and you actually kind of scares you a little bit. How did I drive like 90 miles without even thinking about it? Because you're in that kind of flow state. That's what you get in that meditative state as well. And I remember like just hearing it again, and I try and learn as much as I can. And I was listening to it on a podcast about how you got to kind of visualize your thoughts like a busy motorway. So each car is like a thought. And if you try and like pinpoint every car, you'd be all over the place and you get overwhelmed. Whereas you just let the cars go past and maybe just sit in little thoughts. It's a really important one for me. So I wake up and like see how I'm feeling. I'm like, right, okay, what's going on at the moment? Like, how am I feeling? And then I'll like do a little gratitude journal as well. So like write down 3 things I'm grateful for. And that's when people are like, fucking hell, you all right? Like, people are grateful all the time though. Like if you lost your phone and then you find it, like, fuck, I found that. That's you being grateful, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all these little things. Like, and I think if you just put yourself in that mind frame, it just works better. And when you actually take the time to write it down, and maybe if that feels a bit off for you, maybe you can just like say in your head, like 3 things I'm grateful for. It's a massive one. And it just kind of, I like you, like I set out my intentions for the day, but not make it overwhelming, just a few non-negotiables that I just try and get after. And that's a big win for me. So it just kind of gets me in a good state. And then I sometimes have a little bit of a cold shower, not the whole shower, like I'll do like warm majority of the time and then last 30 seconds just to control my breathing, like you said as well, because you have to control your breathing.
It's another stimuli, isn't it?
And then you're obviously managing your stress as well, because you're in that fight or flight state. So you need to be like, right, I need to chill myself out here. And then again, it's something else you don't want to do. So like, you don't want to get up and in the first place, you don't want to make your bed. You don't
you're almost grounding yourself every morning.
And then you don't want to have like going to the cold, but then it kind of sets you up with this mentality of like, right, I've done 4 or 5 things there that actually could benefit me, but also create a bit of momentum. So when something chucked to me, I can take it on a little bit more. That's a big thing for me.
No, I think you're absolutely. I think that's fantastic. I think that's it's very informative for people who maybe are in bad habits now. Habits are huge. Habits and routine, massive, and we all have bad habits. I'm a bit like, I love meditation, and then I'm a lazy meditator, and I think this is what we do all the time. I think you were talking about as well. I'll only meditate when I think I need it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's ridiculous. You know, I don't. It's a bit like, it's sometimes a bit like people who have a bad habits in their diet. They'll only eat when they think they need it. They'll go the whole day at work, come home at 9 o'clock at night, have a chippy when they think they need it, you know.
Yeah.
We don't do things all the time that's going to benefit us. It has such a great effect. You can regulate your thoughts, you can visualize. And I'm lazy. I'm really, and that's me. My excuse is I've not got enough time.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. I think all of us were so lazy that way to give. It's not even lazy. I think we don't feel it. It's a self-worth thing. We don't feel we're worth it.
Yeah.
Like, so make it 100%. My son is going to get about 70% of that. I'm going to give 20 to myself, 70% to my wee boy. He's going to feel that energy.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe even more than that. If I'm only functioning, my habits are crap, my routines are rubbish, I'm only functioning at maybe 30%, you know, positivity and headspace. My son's not getting a very good me. He's not getting the same Kenny. He's not getting a very good daddy, you know. He's not getting maybe as much as I should be giving him. And people around you sense that energy. We're not stupid. We get it, whether it's subconsciously or consciously. We get that. So what I feel now is I need to make my best the best I can be.
Yeah.
So my son gets it. So, you know, you get it today. So Paul gets it. So everyone that comes into my circle that day gets, you know, well, 100% say, right, I would love to think of good Kenny, you know, and that can change people's lives, and that can help people, and that can, you know, I can bounce off. I can give better motivational speeches. I can give better mindset advice. I can do better life coaching. I can give better PT sessions. If I'm not at 100%, make it I'm not meditating as much, or I'm not meditating at all. My eating's off. I'm not going to the gym. They're not getting the same Kenny.
Yeah.
They're getting a Kenny who's feeling sorry for themselves for no fault, for only the fault of his own. You know, yes, there's outside factors, there's external factors, but at the end of the day, it's up to me to get myself back to where I am, to where I work best, to where I thrive. And I think we all do. I speak to so many, especially mums. I speak to so many mums, and they'll just say, oh, I've no time for myself. Oh, no, I've not got time to do that. Oh, no, I've not got time. They've got the time, they just won't do it. When their sons and daughters go to bed, they're right on Instagram or they're watching Love Island. Do you know what I mean? That's absolutely true. They know it as well, but they won't admit it. They almost feel like admitting it's maybe a sense of guilt of neglecting themselves or something like that. We need people to not feel guilty. We need you not to neglect yourself. We need you to feel better, to get yourself into better headspace, to, you know, to create them healthy routines, them healthy habits. It's a huge thing now. Yeah. How do we drill this home to people? Do you know what I mean? How do we...
Yeah. It's a good point. I know obviously saying you don't have time, like kind of the quote kind of goes like, if you don't have 10 minutes, if you can't meditate for 10 minutes, meditate for an hour. And hopefully that resonates with people, as in like, the problem is that you don't give yourself enough time. You know?
Absolutely.
Like, so, but again, you can even scale that down. Like a lot of people have probably heard my routine there, and it literally could be like 20 minutes that, you know, if you don't have 20 minutes in the day, something's going wrong. And people love to say like, oh, I'm so busy and that I just don't have time, you know what I mean? But then see if I put like a GoPro on them for the full day and you actually see what they're doing, you'd be like, all right, okay. And you also got to weigh up like what's going to service you more, you know what I mean? Taking 10 minutes on your lunch break to go for a walk compared to 10 minutes being on social media and just scrolling through.
Absolutely.
You know? But as you said, like people try and fix it when the problem's already there, you know, rather than like, so for example, something's eroding and you see it, you're like, I'll just leave it. And then it all crashes down. You're like, oh fuck, I better change that now. Better get a new one, replace it, whatever.
We're terrible for that.
Yeah. Whereas before you should have just been on top of it and then just keep that going. And then, you know, it's like I heard Matthew McConaughey on Joe Rogan's podcast, and Matthew McConaughey, like massive guy, and he talks about journaling and stuff like that. And the problem with him, and I guess we can all kind of resonate with that, is when everything's going well, he was journaling and everything was okay. And then he was like, but he wasn't doing when everything wasn't going right. So he was like, oh, I couldn't really understand. Like, so it just shows you that you should be doing it day in, day out, and then you can pinpoint what you're doing differently. Yeah. So for you, if you're documenting your whole life, then you can be like, oh, actually, I felt great when I was doing this, like when I was podcasting all the time. And like for you, you were saying you got a bit overwhelmed and stuff like that. Like what were you doing differently? You could, if you're journaling and stuff like that, you could see what you're doing differently and just being more self-aware in that sense. But I don't know, it's a tough one. Like how people can get better habits. I think you've got to want to, and you've got to figure yourself out. I know I say that all the time, but it's so true. Like you got to find out who you are, and you can't be influenced by your mates and what your mates say. Like for example, if you like start meditating, your mates might be in the group chat, but like, fucking hell, you're right, you know what I mean? Or journal or whatever.
First thing you would say, they would go, all right, you're Buddha, what you doing?
Exactly, you know what I mean? Exactly. But I think it is normalised, and for me, like I probably like, I know loads of lads like, fucking hell, he's a bit of a dafty, like doing all that. But then for me, hopefully I can make it a little bit cooler, you know what I mean? And make it a little bit more acceptable.
Yeah.
That's the big thing for me.
I think that's a big thing. There's a good point. Then we make it cooler, but then should we need to make it cooler?
I think I don't think there's any harm in that. Like, if it's you got to find a way that I think you can't be in this mind frame of like just being too cautious or like having to make it a certain way because it doesn't. I think just getting people doing it more is the main thing.
Yeah.
You know, like obviously, like it's not. It shouldn't be the incentive shouldn't be to do it because we're doing it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he's doing it, so I'm going to do it.
Because it resonates.
It should be like, right, I'm going to try it. Like, I always like fancy saying to people, like, just 21 days, just try and see how you feel. You know, if you don't feel great, then that's fine.
And some people it's not going to maybe work with.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
You know, and some people it will change their life.
Yeah.
All right, well, listen, it's been phenomenal to speak to you. I think you've got a really healthy mindset. I think you're an example for a lot of young men. You know, I really do. Especially a lot of young men in Scotland who struggle. I think opening up is great.
Yeah.
You know, I think your habits good, routines are good, mindset's fantastic. I hope people watch this and maybe get in contact with you as well and watch your own podcast. Talk to me about your own podcast quickly.
Yeah, so basically, mostly all fitness related, but there's a few different kind of pockets in there talking about obviously routines and habits and things like that, and just lifestyle factors. So it's called Discussions with Dynamorph. That's my business, so Dynamorph Fitness. So you can check that out. It's a good one.
I will put a link in the description for that. It's good. It's very, very good. It's very informative. It'll open a lot of minds up. I think it's not too complex. You know, a lot of
terms,
I think a lot of podcasts are just overloaded with information. Fitness podcasts or nutritional podcasts. It's really good. You're going to, especially young fitness fanatics out there, boy or girl, I think you'll learn a lot from it. But from coming from Love Island, from coming from Inverness. Sorry, I'll do it again. I think from yourself going to stardom in Love Island and then shooting to fame, you've stayed wonderfully grounded, and it's so refreshing to see. I hope we can even one day get together and do work together on mental health, especially men's mental health around Scotland, where it's been absolutely phenomenal to have you on. Hopefully I'll have you on again. We'll go into the fitness side of things, of a real fitness-driven podcast. Health, fitness, mental health, nutrition. It'll be fantastic. But thanks for coming on, Wallace.
No worries, mate. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good. Guys, tune in next week. Peace.